Coming up on the science segment on Impact, how this can make these lights go on. Welcome to the science segment for Impact. I'm your host, Barbara Brabetz. With me today is Linda Ann Burtis. She heads the wind energy program in New York for community energy. Welcome to the show, Linda.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
We have a prop with us. There's not enough hot air in this room to actually make this one go. I'm surprised. But we have a prop of a windmill here. We've all seen them. You can tell my age because I call them a windmill, you know,
right.
Like back on those old cowboy shows.
Right, wind turbine.
Wind
if you
turbine.
Want to be hip, you should say wind turbine.
I'm trying with every fiber of my being to be hip. So tell me a little bit about how long you've been in the area and how you came to community energy.
Okay, I'm a longtime resident. We've raised 2 children, 2 station wagons later. Here we are still in the capital region, happily so, surrounded by mountains, and we love it here.
Great place to live.
We're very outdoorsy. And what I've been doing for a long time is looking at clean air and clean water in my own community. I did that as just an environmental volunteer person. And about a decade ago, I began to work in solar energy, and then the wind energy companies started to say, gee, come and do for us what you're doing for solar. So I've been happily on the, back in the days when wind energy, you were a tree hugger and you were really outside the mainstream. Now you're part of the real world and part of everything from Wall Street on down to the wind farms all around New York State. And so I got to ride that wave, and it's very exciting, and I believe in it with my heart and soul, so that is a perfect match.
Well, I love people who are committed to the projects that they work in, that they breathe. So let's talk a little bit about wind turbine energy and how it's produced,
Sure.
And then talk a little bit about the weird kind of the part that as a scientist I'm not really familiar with, kind of how it all fits together in the scheme
Right.
of fossil fuels, wind, solar, other alternatives.
Sure, sure, Barbara. You know, an easy way to think about it is we all opened our refrigerator doors this morning. Where was that electricity coming from? In New York State, unbeknownst to most of us, 16% of that is coming from coal. So that's a fossil fuel, burning a lot of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and part of one of the major greenhouse gases causing global warming. When I opened my refrigerator door, about 25% of that electricity was coming from natural gas. That's still a fossil fuel, albeit much cleaner than coal, but it's still part of this problem of climate change. And so now we want to start looking at clean fuel sources, and one of them is wind energy. Right now in New York State, as well as in the country, we're about 1% of
That's
the grid.
it?
That's it.
1%.
We're the new kid on the block.
Well, as they said on my report card, there's room for improvement.
There's a lot of room for improvement. New York State, we could be powered by 20% wind, both on land and on shore. And so what New York started to do, New York's not as far along as California or Texas, but we're doing a great job at creating a climate where wind farm developers want to come into the state, build a wind farm. And so that's what's happening. And probably driving around towards Syracuse, the closest one here is south of Syracuse. You can actually see it from the thruway.
Mm-hmm.
If you're driving west on the thruway, the Canastota exit, on a beautiful day like today, turn your head left and you'll see a bunch of turbines. All those wind turbines are on small family farms. And so that's another benefit, that these small farms are able to lease their land to a wind farm developer, make an income from that, and then help bring clean electricity going into the grid. And
so not only does it allow us to have a viability for getting off coal, for example, which I think of as the dirtiest of the fossil fuels, but it also helps keep the family farm intact.
I have stood in the barnyard in farms in New York State, and the farmers have said to me, thank goodness this is our retirement money. Thank goodness for these wind turbines. And in some cases, I think they're getting more income than they are from their crops. So the small family farmers stand up in a queue in order to go to a wind developer and ask that their wind turbines be located on their land. And so we're seeing that in New York State. That's another benefit. But then, of course, the immediate benefit is that we're cleaning our grid, and we're getting less dependent on imported oil. For instance, in our state, we don't use that much oil. It's about 5% of the electricity grid. But when we think of ourselves as being part of the whole country, we would like to see us, almost everyone would like to see us be less dependent on imported oil. And so wind is not the whole answer, but wind is definitely an important player in that league. But the thing is that since we're the new kid on the block, we cost a little bit more.
So the economies of scale, getting up and started.
That's right.
So we put these wind turbines on a family farm. We generate energy by taking the mechanical energy of wind and turning it into electrical.
Correct.
Essentially.
Exactly.
And then plugging into the grid.
Into the grid. And so, and then every time you do that, you're taking out in the grid some of our fossil fuel. In New York, probably most of it is natural gas. But I'm very interested, like you are, in coal and seeing less coal used, right, in my own home, in my own state, in my country. So wind is helping us get to that. But because we're the new kid on the block, we cost a little bit more. So about 10 years ago, a group of really smart environmentalists began to talk about wind was way ahead of solar in terms of being cost effective. But it had this little hurdle, this little bump that it was cost more than conventional fuel. And so people came up with the idea that every time one of these turbines spins, in addition to making the electrons that go into the grid, it also makes something called a renewable energy credit, or a REC for short.
Okay.
And that's what you can buy if you're a National Grid customer, if you're a NYSEG customer, if you're Union College. I supply Union College with wind RECs. A printing company just north of us here, Velocity Printers, the Dormitory Authority, Albany. So that's the commercial customer. But then you and I have a carbon footprint, and a lot of us are interested in lightening our carbon footprint.
So let's talk about, I'm at home. Right now I pay National Grid or NYSEG a certain amount of money. I have electricity come out of my walls. I can charge my cell phone. I can open that refrigerator door.
Right. If
I say I want the money that I pay, I want it to be supporting wind power, either a proportion or every dime I spend. How do I do that with the RECs? How do I do it if I'm the consumer and I want wind power to be the power that I'm purchasing?
Right. It's very, very simple. It takes about 2 minutes to do it. And so National Grid has a program. They've had it for about 8 years or so. It's called Green Up. NYSEG has a similar program called Catch the Wind. And what you, as the homeowner, or if you live in an apartment, or if you have a small business, are doing is you're just saying to your utility, sign me up for either Catch the Wind or Green Up, and I'm willing to pay a couple of dollars extra in order to know that when I open my refrigerator door, I was putting New York wind into the grid.
And how much is it? I mean, we're talking kilowatt hour. There's a tiny little
It's a few dollars extra a month.
A few dollars
extra.
It's
between $5 more and $10 or $15 more a month. I pay that. I happily pay that. I've personally signed thousands of people up because we go around to fairs and festivals and explain the program to people. But I tell people when I'm talking to them, here's my bill. I pay $12 extra a month happily. I dry my clothes outside. My husband and I drive a hybrid electric car. We're doing everything that we can to lighten our carbon footprint. And there are a large group of people just like me and just like
I'm
you.
one of them. I pay the extra money.
Good.
Yeah, it's really a blip on my radar. I think of it as a couple cups of coffee a month. And frankly, I know that where my energy is coming from, I can be proud of.
Exactly. And if you have children, you're teaching your children, you want them to turn the lights off, but when they turn the lights on, turn the computer on, turn the TV, that in your house is powered by 100% wind energy. Now, one important point I make to people is that we literally, when this turbine spins, we don't know where that electron goes. Does it go to your house or does it go to my house? Electrons go to their closest source. Since nobody knows, even at any moment in time, say right now, National Grid wouldn't be able to say, oh, right now the lights here are powered by X number of kilowatt hours of coal, of natural gas, hydro, and so on. Since you never know that, then you and I, when we buy these, pay this couple of dollars extra and buy these renewable energy credits, we're able to say our houses are powered by 100% wind energy.
And that's because of the pool concept.
Exactly.
So I know we have a graphic that we can show,
Yes.
but we have the coal, the natural gas, the wind energy, the solar, what little solar we can do in New York.
Right.
That's all going into the pool, and we
Right.
know that we're subsidizing that piece of the pool that comes from wind energy if we sign up with community energy. So what does it take if a customer is interested, based on our discussion here today, or they've been thinking about this for a while and just didn't know how to do it? How can they sign up?
Well, you can just reach me. I think you're going to give the contact information for me. So it's very easy. I have an office here in the area, and it's just easy to call me or email me, and in about 2 minutes on the phone, I can sign you up. You can also go to the website, communityenergyinc.com, pick New York State, tell them click in which utility you are, and you can sign up that way.
That's great. So all you need really is a copy of your current utility bill whenever you do any of this, and the transition is seamless.
That's right.
Yeah.
It is.
And you still pay National Grid or NYSEG, don't you?
Everything stays exactly the same. Nothing changes. You pay a couple of dollars more. And a nice way, Barbara, to make it tangible is if a homeowner does this, we've calculated that in the average home in New York State, how much electricity you use, it's as though you personally, when you do it, are not driving your car about 3,000 miles a year. These wind energy credits are not something that you can touch, taste, see, and so on, but you can measure in terms of the carbon offset that it brings. And so it's as though you're planting an acre of trees or not driving about 3,000 miles a year. So I tell that to people too, because yes, I want them to think about when they use electricity and switch on their lights and open that refrigerator door, but also that this is very tangible. And it's working. Program's an award-winning program in New York State. It's been around for a long time. We have thousands of people doing it. And the reason that it can work is because when you and I pay a couple of dollars, there are millions of us that pay an electric bill. So when we begin to hit those bigger numbers, now you're bringing in a stream of revenue that's saying to the existing wind farms in New York State, now you can be sustainable, you can survive, even though you're the new kid on the block and you cost a little bit more than conventional fuel, and you're creating a demand. And so you're driving the wind developers to look hard at New York State and say, oh, I want to put a wind farm in New York State because the economics work out.
Well, Linda Ann Burtis, it's been a pleasure to hear so much about wind energy coming from our area, supporting our local environment, reducing our carbon footprints, either at home or at work. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Back to you.